Good morning and welcome back to Wellness Daily. Before you scroll past, before you check another notification, before you do anything else with the next few minutes of your day, I need you to stop, sit up straight, and give me your full, undivided attention. Because what I am about to share with you is not general wellness advice. It is not recycled information you have heard 100 times before. What I am about to walk you through has the power to change the biological age of your body, the sharpness of your mind, and the quality of every single day you have left on this earth. I am your doctor. For over 2 decades, I have worked in internal medicine and longevity research, and I have spent the better part of those years sitting across from men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who came to me confused, tired, and frightened because their bodies seemed to be turning against them. And every single time, without exception, we discovered the same thing. It was not their age that was hurting them. It was their habits, specific, invisible, deeply ordinary habits that no one had ever thought to question. I want to share something that stopped me cold when I first read it. A longitudinal study conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, tracking adults over 60 across a 15-year period, found that individuals who eliminated just 5 common daily behaviors reduced their all-cause mortality risk by 61%. They were cognitively sharper at 80 than many participants had been at 65. Their inflammation markers, the biological fingerprints of aging, had reversed, not slowed, reversed. Now, before we get into the list, I have to tease you just a little, because number 1 on today's countdown is something I guarantee you are not expecting. It is something millions of seniors do every single evening, something most doctors quietly do themselves, something the entire culture has told you is harmless or even beneficial, and the science says otherwise. So please, stay with me all the way through, because that final one may be the most important thing you hear this year. And before we dive in, I want to ask you something. Drop your age in the comments right now and tell me one thing you wish you had stopped doing sooner. I read every comment on this channel personally, every one, and the wisdom in this community never stops inspiring me. Leave your answer below and let us learn from each other. Now let us get into it. We are counting down from 7 to 1, from important to absolutely life-changing. Number 7. Stop replacing real meals with protein bars, meal replacement shakes, and processed supplements as your primary nutrition. I know this one is going to surprise some of you, because so much of the health content aimed at seniors pushes supplementation as the answer, and I understand why. After 60, appetite often decreases. Cooking feels like more effort than it used to. A bar or a shake seems efficient, convenient, even responsible. But here is what is happening inside your body when processed supplements become your primary nutrition rather than your support system. After the age of 65, your gut lining begins to thin, and the diversity of your microbiome, the ecosystem of beneficial bacteria that governs your immune system, your mood, and even your cognitive function, begins to contract. Your body requires a wide spectrum of fiber, phytonutrients, antioxidants, and bioactive compounds that can only be delivered through whole, minimally processed food. Protein bars and shakes, even the expensive ones, even the clean label ones, deliver isolated macronutrients wrapped in a package that your aging digestive system cannot fully utilize. A study published in the journal Gut followed adults over 65 for 8 years and found that those who relied heavily on processed supplementation as meal replacements showed significantly higher markers of gut permeability, commonly called leaky gut, compared to those eating predominantly whole foods. Higher gut permeability in seniors was directly correlated with elevated systemic inflammation, increased depression scores, and accelerated cognitive decline. I had a patient named Margaret, 68 years old, from Phoenix, Arizona. Margaret was meticulous about her health. She exercised, she read every label, she was taking 14 supplements a day and replacing 2 meals with high-protein shakes. When she came to me, she could not understand why she felt so fatigued, why her joints ached, why her mood had flattened. Her gut health was in crisis. The diversity of her microbiome had collapsed. We spent 4 months slowly rebuilding her plate with real food, colorful vegetables, fatty fish, legumes, fermented foods, whole grains. Within 3 months, her fatigue had lifted, her inflammation markers had dropped, and she told me food had begun to taste extraordinary again, like her body was remembering something it had forgotten. The application is simple. Use supplements exactly as the name suggests, to supplement a diet built on real food, not to replace it. Aim for 5 to 7 different colored whole foods per day. Add one fermented food daily, whether that is a small serving of yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, or kimchi. Let real food carry the weight. Let supplements fill the gaps. Number 6. Stop ignoring your breathing pattern, especially during exertion and stress. This one sounds almost absurdly simple. Everyone breathes. You have been breathing your entire life, and that, ironically, is exactly the problem. After decades of chronic low-grade stress, poor posture, and sedentary living, most adults over 60 have become habitual shallow breathers, chest breathers, breathers who barely use the lower two-thirds of their lung capacity at all. And the downstream consequences of this invisible habit touch nearly every organ system in the body. Here is the physiology. When you breathe shallowly through your chest, you chronically underactivate the diaphragm. This keeps your body in a mild but persistent state of sympathetic nervous system activation, what we call the fight-or-flight state. Cortisol stays elevated, blood pressure stays elevated, heart rate variability, one of the most powerful predictors of cardiovascular longevity, remains suppressed. Oxygen delivery to your tissues is less efficient, and because your lymphatic system relies in part on diaphragmatic movement for circulation, shallow breathing is also quietly impairing your body's ability to clear metabolic waste. Researchers at the University of Arizona published findings showing that adults over 65 who practiced diaphragmatic nasal breathing for just 10 minutes twice a day showed measurable reductions in blood pressure equivalent to a mild antihypertensive medication after 8 weeks. Their cortisol levels dropped, their sleep quality improved, their scores on cognitive processing tests climbed. I had a patient named Harold, 74 years old, from Tucson, New Mexico. Harold had been on blood pressure medication for 9 years and was experiencing chronic fatigue that no one could explain. When I watched him breathe during a stress test, I noticed he never once engaged his diaphragm. His shoulders rose with every breath, his belly stayed rigid. We worked together on nasal diaphragmatic breathing, just 2 short sessions a day. Within 12 weeks, Harold's blood pressure had dropped enough that his cardiologist began discussing reducing his medication. His energy had returned. He told me he felt calmer than he had in 30 years. The application is immediate and costs nothing. Twice a day, sit comfortably and place one hand on your chest, one on your belly. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Your belly should rise. Your chest should stay relatively still. Exhale through your nose or pursed lips for a count of 6. Do this for 10 minutes. You are not just breathing, you are recalibrating your nervous system, your cardiovascular function, and your cellular oxygen delivery with every single breath. Number 5. Stop eating your largest meal of the day in the evening. This one lands differently for almost every senior I share it with, because the evening meal is often deeply cultural, deeply social, deeply tied to family and comfort and ritual. I want to be sensitive to that. And I also want to be completely honest with you about what the science tells us is happening when dinner becomes the biggest caloric event of your day. After 65, your circadian biology, the internal clock that governs every metabolic process in your body, weakens significantly. Your insulin sensitivity, the ability of your cells to efficiently absorb glucose, is highest in the morning and declines progressively throughout the day. By evening, your pancreas is secreting less insulin. Your cells are more resistant to it, and your digestive system is preparing to wind down, not ramp up. When you eat a large meal at 7, 8, 9 in the evening, you are flooding your bloodstream with glucose and triglycerides at precisely the moment your body is least equipped to manage them. Blood sugar spikes higher and stays elevated longer. Fat storage increases. Inflammatory cytokines rise during the night. Sleep quality drops because your digestive system is working overtime. And over months and years, this pattern quietly drives metabolic dysfunction, weight gain around the abdomen, and elevated cardiovascular risk. A landmark study from the Salk Institute found that shifting the majority of caloric intake to earlier in the day with a lighter evening meal reduced fasting blood glucose by an average of 12% in adults over 65. improved triglyceride levels by 18%, and dramatically improved sleep architecture within just 6 weeks. No change in what they ate, only when they ate it. I worked with a woman named Patricia, 71 years old, from Atlanta, Georgia. Patricia had struggled with her weight for a decade, despite eating what she considered to be a reasonable diet. She was a light breakfaster and a large dinner eater. We simply shifted things, a real, protein-rich breakfast, a full, satisfying lunch as the anchor meal of her day, a lighter, earlier dinner, finished by 6:30 in the evening. In 4 months, Patricia had lost 11 pounds without restricting a single food group. Her morning glucose readings had normalized, and she was sleeping deeply for the first time in years. The practical shift requires no deprivation. Make breakfast real and substantial. Make lunch your biggest meal. Let dinner be nourishing but lighter, and aim to finish eating at least 3 hours before you go to sleep. Your metabolism, your sleep, and your waistline will respond in ways that may genuinely astonish you. Number 4. Stop dismissing changes in your oral health as cosmetic. I know how this one sounds. We are talking about longevity, about brain health, about the full arc of aging. And I am bringing up your mouth, but I need you to hear this, because the research on oral health and systemic disease after 60 is among the most compelling, most underappreciated, and most clinically urgent bodies of science in all of geriatric medicine. Here is what we know. The bacteria that colonize an unhealthy mouth, particularly the species associated with gum disease, do not stay in the mouth. They enter the bloodstream through inflamed gum tissue, and they travel. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that seniors with moderate to severe gum disease had a 70% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease over a 10-year follow-up period. 70%. The mechanism is not mysterious. A bacterium called Porphyromonas gingivalis, one of the primary drivers of gum disease, produces enzymes called gingipains that have been found directly in the brain tissue of Alzheimer's patients at autopsy. This same bacterium has been linked to increased arterial inflammation, elevated risk of heart attack and stroke, and impaired immune regulation in older adults. And then there is dry mouth, which affects nearly half of all adults over 65, largely as a side effect of common medications. Dry mouth is not a minor inconvenience. Saliva is your mouth's primary defense system. Without adequate saliva flow, harmful bacterial colonies grow unchecked, cavities accelerate, gum disease progresses, and the systemic inflammatory burden on your entire body quietly increases every single day. I had a patient named Arthur, 77 years old, from Portland, Oregon. Arthur had not seen a dentist in 8 years. He thought his dental issues were purely cosmetic at his age. His blood work told a different story. His C-reactive protein, the primary marker of systemic inflammation, was nearly 4 times the optimal level. His blood pressure was resistant to medication. His memory had been slipping for 2 years. When we treated his advanced gum disease aggressively over the following 6 months, his CRP dropped by nearly half. His blood pressure became manageable, and his wife told me at their next visit that Arthur seemed sharper, more present, more like himself. The application is non-negotiable. See a dentist and a dental hygienist at least twice a year, even if your teeth feel fine. Brush with a soft brush twice daily and floss once daily without exception. If you experience dry mouth, speak to your physician about whether a medication adjustment is possible, increase your water intake, and consider an alcohol-free oral rinse designed to stimulate saliva. Your brain and your heart are depending on the health of your mouth in ways most people never consider. Number 3. Stop beginning your day with news, social media, or any content designed to alarm or outrage you. This may be the most culturally resistant habit on this entire list because it is so completely normalized. You wake up, you reach for the phone or the television comes on, and within minutes you are immersed in a stream of catastrophe, conflict, tragedy, and division. And you do this before your cortisol has even finished its natural morning peak. Here is what that does to your biology. Your cortisol naturally surges in the first hour after waking. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is a healthy, necessary part of your circadian rhythm. It is designed to mobilize energy, sharpen alertness, and prepare you for the demands of the day. But cortisol is meant to be followed by resolution, by movement, by breakfast, by the gradual calming of the nervous system as the morning unfolds. When you flood that cortisol window with alarming content, with images of violence, with political conflict, with social media comparison, you stack a stress response on top of an already elevated hormonal state. In younger adults, the system recovers. In adults over 65, where the HPA axis, the hormonal stress regulation system, is already less resilient, chronic morning cortisol elevation has been shown to accelerate hippocampal atrophy, the shrinking of the brain region most critical to memory formation. It disrupts glucose regulation for the entire day. It suppresses immune function, and over months and years, it meaningfully increases the risk of depression and anxiety in older adults. A study from Carnegie Mellon University found that adults who eliminated news consumption in the first 90 minutes after waking showed significantly lower daily cortisol profiles, better mood scores throughout the day, and improved self-reported cognitive clarity within just 2 weeks. I remember a patient named Helen, 73 years old, from Denver, Colorado. Helen had been waking at 6 every morning and turning on the news immediately, as she had done for 30 years. She came to me exhausted, anxious, and struggling with memory lapses that had begun to frighten her. When I asked her to describe her morning routine in detail, the first thing she mentioned was the television. We made one agreement: no news, no phone, no screens for the first 90 minutes of her day, morning light, a real breakfast, quiet or soft music, and a short walk. Helen called me 3 weeks later in tears, and not unhappy ones. She told me she had not felt that calm in the morning since she was a young woman. Her sleep had improved, her anxiety had softened. She felt, as she put it, like herself again. The application is a protected morning. Your first 90 minutes after waking belong to your nervous system, not to the news cycle. Morning light, hydration, real food, gentle movement. Save the world's problems for mid-morning, when your cortisol has come down and your nervous system is ready to process difficulty without being destabilized by it. Number 2, stop relying on walking as your only form of exercise. Walking is wonderful. I want to be clear about that. Walking is one of the most powerful longevity behaviors available to any human being at any age. The research on daily walking and lifespan is overwhelming and unambiguous. If you walk every day, please do not stop. But if walking is the only physical challenge you give your body, and for the majority of seniors it is, then there is a critical, irreversible process happening in your muscles right now that walking simply cannot address. It is called sarcopenia, and it is the most underestimated threat to senior independence in modern medicine. Sarcopenia is the progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength that begins in your 30s and accelerates sharply after 60. Without deliberate resistance-based stimulus, the average adult loses between 3% and 5% of their muscle mass per decade in their 30s and 40s, and that rate nearly doubles after 60. By 75, many adults have lost 25% to 30% of the muscle mass they had at their peak. And here is why this matters in ways that go far beyond appearance or strength. Muscle is a metabolic organ. It is the largest glucose disposal system in your body. As muscle mass falls, insulin resistance climbs, blood sugar dysregulation increases, metabolic rate drops, and fat accumulation around the organs accelerates. Muscle loss is also the single strongest predictor of fall risk, fracture risk, and the loss of functional independence in older adults. Walking maintains cardiovascular function and improves mood. It does almost nothing to prevent sarcopenia, because sarcopenia is driven by one thing: the absence of mechanical load, the absence of resistance. Your muscles require force to maintain themselves. They require being asked to work against something heavier than the weight of your own body moving forward on flat ground. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology followed adults between 65 and 85 who were assigned to either a walking program alone or a combined walking and resistance training program. After 1 year, the walking-only group showed continued muscle loss at the expected rate. The resistance training group had not only halted muscle loss, they had reversed it. They showed improved balance, faster walking speed, better metabolic markers, and significantly higher scores on cognitive tests. I worked with a man named Thomas, 76 years old, from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thomas walked 4 miles every day without fail and was proud of his discipline. And yet he had fallen twice in 2 years, was struggling to rise from low chairs, and his blood sugar had crept into the pre-diabetic range despite his daily walks. We added 3 sessions of simple resistance work per week, not a gym, not equipment, body weight squats, wall push-ups, resistance band rows, and step-ups onto a low step. Within 6 months, Thomas had not fallen once. He was rising from chairs effortlessly. His fasting blood sugar had normalized, and he told me he felt stronger in his legs than he had in 15 years. The application requires no gym membership and no special equipment. 3 times per week, perform at least 15 minutes of resistance exercise. Squats from a chair, slow and controlled, wall push-ups, resistance band pulls, standing calf raises, stair climbing with intention. The weight does not need to be heavy, the effort does. Every repetition is a signal to your body that your muscle is still needed, still worth maintaining. Send that signal and your body will respond. And now, number 1, the habit I promised you. The one that is so culturally accepted, so warmly defended, so universally practiced among adults over 60 that I know some of you are going to push back the moment I say it. Stop drinking alcohol, even if it is just 1 glass. I know. You have heard for decades that a glass of red wine is good for the heart, that moderate drinking is harmless, that 1 drink a day is fine, maybe even beneficial, and for a long time the research did appear to support that. I believed it too. But here is what the most current science tells us, with a clarity that can no longer be reasonably disputed. The studies that found benefits from moderate alcohol consumption had a fundamental flaw. They compared drinkers to non-drinkers. But the non-drinker category included people who had quit drinking because they were already ill. Former heavy drinkers who had stopped for health reasons were classified as non-drinkers, making the drinking group look healthier by comparison. When researchers corrected for this and compared current moderate drinkers only to lifetime abstainers, the apparent benefits of moderate drinking disappeared entirely. And in adults over 60, the specific risks of alcohol are not moderate, they are substantial. After 65, your body's ability to metabolize alcohol declines significantly. Your liver enzymes are less efficient, your total body water decreases, meaning the same amount of alcohol produces a higher blood concentration than it did at 40. Your brain becomes dramatically more sensitive to ethanol's toxic effects. And because many seniors take multiple medications, including blood thinners, sleep aids, blood pressure medications, and antidepressants, alcohol's interactions create a pharmacological complexity that most people never consider. The research published in JAMA Network Open in 2023, analyzing data from over 430,000 adults, found no safe level of alcohol consumption for brain health. Even 1 drink per day was associated with measurable reductions in brain volume and white matter integrity. In adults over 65, low to moderate drinking was associated with a 33% increased risk of atrial fibrillation, a 28% increased risk of falls and fractures, accelerated cognitive decline, worsened sleep architecture, specifically the suppression of restorative deep sleep despite the feeling of falling asleep more easily, and increased risk of certain cancers, including breast cancer and colorectal cancer. 1 drink, not 10. 1. I had a patient named Edward, 79 years old, from Savannah, Georgia. Edward was a gentleman in every sense of the word, disciplined, thoughtful, careful about his health. He had 1 glass of bourbon every evening, a ritual he had maintained for 40 years. He came to me reporting fragmented sleep, increasing forgetfulness, a recent fall, and mild heart palpitations that his cardiologist had attributed to age. When I raised the possibility that his nightly bourbon might be contributing, he was genuinely surprised, not defensive, surprised. He had simply never considered it. He agreed to stop for 60 days, just 60 days. At the end of that period, Edward told me the following. His sleep had transformed. He was waking rested for the first time in years. His palpitations had stopped entirely. His memory felt noticeably sharper. He said he had more energy by 10 in the morning than he used to have all day. He has not had a drink since. He told me it was the single most impactful health decision he made in the last decade of his life. The application is the one that requires the most honesty with yourself. If you drink regularly, even occasionally, even socially, I am not asking you to make a judgment about yourself or your past choices. I am asking you to consider what 60 days without alcohol might reveal about how you feel, how you sleep, how clearly you think, and how fully you are capable of living. The absence of a habit you have held for decades can be remarkably revelatory. Many of my patients have told me that stopping alcohol was not the loss they expected it to be. It was a restoration of something they had not known they were missing. Now let me bring this all the way home for you. 7 habits. Processed supplements replacing real food. Shallow unconscious breathing, eating your largest meal in the evening, ignoring what your oral health is telling you about your brain and your heart, beginning your mornings in the alarm and outrage of news media, relying on walking alone when your muscles are silently shrinking around you, and the daily drink that your body, after 60, can no longer metabolize the way it once did. None of these cost anything to address. None of them require a prescription. None of them require equipment, or a specialist, or a diagnosis. They require only one thing: the willingness to see clearly what has been quietly happening and to choose something different. I have watched patients in their late 70s and 80s make these changes and describe the experience in almost the same words every time. They say, "I feel like I got myself back," not a younger version of themselves, present, clear, capable, alive in a way they had slowly forgotten was still available to them. Your body is not failing you. It is not betraying you. It is responding with extraordinary precision and loyalty to every input you give it every single day. And the moment you begin giving it different inputs, better inputs, it responds, often faster than you expect, often in ways that surprise you deeply. You have that information now. 7 things to stop doing, starting today. Your next chapter is not written yet. And the research, the science, the stories of hundreds of patients I have sat with all point toward the same extraordinary truth. It is never too late. Not at 65, not at 75, not at 85. The biology simply does not support the idea that the door is closed. It is not. If this video found you at exactly the right moment, if something I said today connected with something you have been quietly wondering about yourself, please share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. A spouse, a sibling, a friend, a parent. This information should not be rare. It should be everywhere. And if you are not yet part of the Wellness Daily community, I want to personally invite you to subscribe. We publish new, research-backed content every single week, designed for adults over 60 who believe, as I do, that how we age is not predetermined, it is chosen. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and join tens of thousands of people who are making that choice every single day. Now I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me which of these 7 habits you are going to stop first. And if there is a habit you already stopped that changed everything for you, share it. Your story belongs in this community, and it may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Take care of yourself, my friend. I will see you in the next one.